Volume 2, Scriptural Translation, Part B, 7 Main Figures, 6 Auxiliaries. 1. Kumarajiva of Chang'an during the Jin dynasty. Kumarajiva, also called Tongshao, was a native of India. For generations, his family served as prime ministers. His grandfather, named Dadwo, was uncommonly excellent and famous nationwide, and his father, named Kumarayana, was intelligent and noble. When the moment of succession came close, Kumarayana dismissed the opportunity and entered the monastic order, traveling eastwards and crossing the Pamirs. After learning about his refusal of the post, the king of Kucha admired this young man, welcomed him in person at the suburb of the capital city, and invited him to assume the role of national master. At that time, the king had a 20-year-old sister with great talent and wit. She was able to memorize texts after reading them only once and understand words after listening one time. She had red moles on her body, so she should give birth to a son with wisdom based on the doctrinal description. Multiple monarchs asked for matchmaking to marry this princess, but she turned them all down. When she met with Kumarayana, the princess wanted to marry the latter, so she forced the marriage and became pregnant soon after. During the pregnancy, the future mother felt that her faculty of comprehension greatly increased, doubling that of her previous capacity. She heard that many sramanas at Great Oriel Temple were virtuous and renowned. Some were even enlightened ones. The princess then sat for daily reverence along with noble ladies and bhiksunis, giving alms and offerings. In addition, Kumarajiva's mother suddenly knew how to speak the Indian language and responded to rebukes or questions with subtle inspirations and ideas. Everybody was amazed. An arhat named Damiksha indicated she must be bearing a son of wisdom, and explained the signs Sariputra's mother had while bearing the sage. To prove his point, after Kumarajiva was born, the princess forgot the marvelous words she said during the pregnancy. Shortly afterwards, the mother desired to renounce the world as well, although her husband disagreed. She then gave birth to another boy named Pusistava. Seeing scattered bones of the dead during a trip outside the city, she sensed the root cause of sufferings, was determined to enter the monastic order, and swore to refrain from eating before tonsure. On the 6th night of her fast, she was completely emaciated and would not last until the dawn broke. Her husband panicked and approved her aspiration, asking someone to tonsure her. At that point, she resumed eating food and initiated her nunhood by receiving precepts the next day. She practiced meditation, intently and diligently, obtaining the fruit of Shroda Apana. Following his mother, Kumarajiva entered monastic order at the age of 7, learned sutras from the master, and recited 1,000 stanzas per day, with each stanza having 32 words, totaling 32,000 words. After his reciting of the Abhidharma, the teacher expounded the meaning to Kumarajiva. The learner grasped it thoroughly, even all the details. At that time, the Buddhists in Kucha offered to them generously, since the mother was the sister of the king, so the mother left the place where people respected them, taking her son with her. At the age of 9, crossing the Sindhu's river, Kumarajiva arrived in Jiban with his mother and met with Vandudatta, the renowned and virtuous master. As the cousin of the king of Jiban, he had gained profound comprehension of the Dharma as well as other knowledge with his uncommon talent. He was also proficient in the Tripitaka and Navanga Sasana. From morning until noon, he transcribed 1,000 gathas and recited 1,000 gathas in the afternoon. Consequently, he was well known near and far. Upon Kumarajiva's arrival, the young boy paid respect to and followed Vandudatta as his master, learning the Kasudraka Pitaka, the Madhyama Agama, and the Durga Agama, which totaled to 4 million words. Very often, the master praised the student's intelligence, and those words reached the king's ears. The king invited Kumarajiva to the royal palace and summoned reputed and eloquent practitioners of other religions to challenge him. At the beginning, the priests did not take the young Sramana seriously and looked down on him during the debate due to his age. Kumarajiva seized the opportunity to fight back and defeated his opponents by leaving them dumbstruck. The king treated him with more respect, providing him daily with 1 preserved goose and 3 deciliters each of the following cereals: round-shaped rice, and flour, and 6 liters of butter, which were tributes paid by foreign countries. Also, 5 bhiksus and 10 novices were sent to administer and clean the monastery where Kumarajiva stayed as his disciples. This is how Kumarajiva was revered. When he was 12 years old, his mother took Kumarajiva back to Kucha. All states in the region wanted to grant him noble titles, but he wanted none. At that time, the mother took her son to the northern mountain in Uzi. An arhat saw him and was amazed, telling the mother, "You should take good care of this novice. If he can observe the precepts until the age of 35, he will be able to assume great cause for the Dharma, delivering countless people, as much as Upagupta did. If his observance of precepts is incomplete, he will not be able to carry out outstanding efforts and will merely be a talented master." In the kingdom of Kasa, Kumarajiva used to put a Buddhist alms bowl on top of his head and say to himself, "Why is this bowl very light when its size is so big?" Immediately, the bowl became too heavy for him to bear, and he cried out as it fell off his head. His mother asked what happened, and he said, "Your son has a discriminating mind, so the bowl's weight varies." Thus, he stayed in Kasa for a year. In that winter, as he recited the Abhidharma, he could understand the subtle meaning of the Shaiman, 10 gates, and Shioji. Aspiration cultivation, chapters without any training. He also comprehended the questions in Luzu, 6-part Abhidharma, thoroughly among others. A Sramana of the Tripitaka in the kingdom of Shijian told the king, "This novice is uncommon. Your Majesty may ask him to preach the Dharma, which will generate 2 benefits. First, the novices of our country would feel ashamed and work harder. Second, the king of Kucha will believe that Kumarajiva grew up in our country, so reverence to him will equate homage to our country. The reverers must come seeking friendship." The king approved and arranged a great assembly, inviting Kumarajiva to take the high seat. He expounded the Dharmakakra Pravartana Sutra. As expected, the king of Kucha sent a high envoy and great gifts to ameliorate relations with Kasa. In his spare time when not preaching, Kumarajiva studied non-Buddhist doctrines. He became versed in the Vedanta, deeply understood lexicology, writing, and eloquence. Kumarajiva also read through the Kator Veda and Panusa Vidya classics, grasped skills including yin-yang and astrology, and was highly capable of prediction as well as fortune-telling. He formed an open-minded and non-punctilious character. Practitioners had doubts about his attributes, but he was at ease and never minded such concerns. Prince Shachi and Prince Kanjan of Yarkand were 2 brothers that entered monastic order as novices. The big brother's style name was Suryabhadra. The younger brother's style name was Suryasoma. He was skilled in many disciplines and focused on the Mahayana tradition to deliver people from suffering, while his big brother learned from various schools, including that of his younger brother. Kumarajiva followed the younger brother as well and forged a deep friendship with him. Once, Suryasoma expounded the Anuttara Sutra for him, learning that the 5 aggregates, 18 elements of cognition, and the 12 sense bases were all empty. Kumarajiva wondered and asked, "What's the point of this sutra? It breaks the phenomena." The teacher replied, "The phenomena based on eyes and other sense organs are not real existences." Since the student stuck to the eye faculty, the teacher thereupon indicated the unreal nature of phenomena from this perspective. The duo researched and argued the theories in Mahayana and Hinayana doctrines back and forth. After quite a while, Kumarajiva finally realized the truth and then focused on Mahayana, saying, "I used to study the Hinayana canon, just as how one does not recognize gold and believes in the value of bronze." Hence he asked for more Mahayana teachings and recited the Madhyamaka Sastra, Sada Sastra, and Devada Sanakaya Sastra among others. Soon, with his mother, Kumarajiva went to the kingdom of Wensu at the north border of Kucha. At that time, a priest of another religion resided there, who was famous in the region for his eloquence. Beating the drum, he vowed, "I would cut off my head." If someone could defeat me in debates. When Kumarajiva arrived and questioned him with the two truths, the priest was at a loss for the right answers. So he bowed and took refuge in Buddhism. Thus, Kumarajiva gained a huge reputation in the east of the Pamirs and the south of the Yellow River. The king of Kucha went to Wensu in person to welcome Kumarajiva back to the king's homeland so as to expound various sutras. The masses far and wide were all respectful, and no one could confront him. The king's daughter was a nun named Ajiimadi. She read widely and specialized in meditation. It was said that she had obtained the second fruit of Sakardegaman. She took delight in listening to Dharma talks, thereupon organizing a great assembly and inviting Kumarajiva to expound Vaipulya Sutras. Kumarajiva explained and analyzed. All phenomena are of emptiness nature and non-self, and discern the notions of five aggregates unreal. Every participant regretted not learning the truth earlier. At the age of 20, Kumarajiva formally took the precepts in the palace and followed Vimalaksa to learn the Dasa Banavara Vinaya. After a while, Kumarajiva's mother left for India, telling King Vai Chun of Kucha, "Your nation is going to decline, so I am leaving." Upon her arrival in India, she got the third fruit of cultivation. Before she left, the mother told Kumarajiva, "The Mahayana teachings should be widely spread in China. Their transmission must rely on your effort, but this effort will not bring any benefit. What would you do?" The son replied, "A bodhisattva's path is to benefit others selflessly. If I can make the Dharma circulate, purging minds of delusion, I will not regret it, even though I have to be tortured by fire." Then, he stayed at the new monastery in Kucha. In the old palace by the monastery, Kumarajiva first obtained the Feng Guang Jing and read it diligently. As a demon came to cover the texts, the monk could only see the empty bamboo slips. Understanding that was due to a demon, his aspiration was even firmer. The texts recovered after the demon left, and a voice arose. "You are a wise man. Why do you need to read this?" Kumarajiva said, "You are just a little demon. Go back quickly. My mind is as firm as the earth, it cannot be changed." He stayed in Kucha for 2 years, widely reading Mahayana discourses and thoroughly comprehending their subtle meanings. The king of Kucha made a golden lion throne for him, placed a cushion from the Roman Empire on it, and asked Kumarajiva to expound the Dharma. Whereas he said, "My teacher remains uninspired by Mahayana teachings, I would like to go preaching for him first. I cannot stay here." Soon, his teacher, Vandudatta, came from afar, and the king asked the senior master then, could the patriarch see things from far away? Vandudatta replied, "First, I heard that my disciple was inspired by unusual teachings, and secondly that your majesty would promote the Dharma. Thereupon I speeded to come to your esteemed country." Kumarajiva was happy to have his teacher, which coincided with his will, so he expounded the sutra on virtuous woman's questions, mostly indicating that all the phenomena arose dependently on conditions, hence unreal. He and his old teacher had not believed this theory before. Thus Kumarajiva talked about this sutra first. His teacher asked him, "What unusual character did you see in Mahayana teachings for you to convert?" Kumarajiva replied, "The Mahayana canon is profound and clear, clarifying that all the dharmas have emptiness nature, while Hinayana is partial and clings to notions and features." The teacher returned, "It is horrifying that you mention the emptiness of all phenomena. Why do you abandon the reality of phenomena and prefer emptiness? This is like the madman in the past who once asked the rope maker to make a very thin and fine thread of hemp. The rope maker was carefully doing his job and made threads as thin as dust, but the madman still chastised him, saying it was too thick. The craftsman was angry, and pointed his finger to the empty sky, then telling the madman, 'Here is your thin thread.' The madman asked, 'Why can I not see it?' The rope maker answered, 'I am very experienced in thread making, and even I cannot see it myself due to its fineness. How can you see it?' The madman rejoiced, and handed over a lot of money to compensate the craftsman. Later, the rope maker used this scheme and gained rewards again. Your emptiness theory is just like this." Kumarajiva cited similar examples to explain the truth. Back and forth for over a month, his efforts gradually began to work on his teacher, who marveled out loud, "If the teacher cannot understand, the disciples will teach him instead." Today this proverb is proven. He then respected Kumarajiva as his teacher by saying, "You are my Mahayana teacher, and I am your Hinayana teacher." People in the western regions all admired and paid respect to the prodigy. Each year, when Kumarajiva gave Dharma talks, the kings knelt by the high seat and let the preacher step on their shoulders to mount the seat. This is how they respected Kumarajiva. Kumarajiva's sermons gained wide popularity and a high reputation in the western regions and China. At that time, Fujian, who was the monarch in Guangzhou of China, was visited by the king of Frontal Cheshi and the younger brother of the Kuchen king. The two of them convinced Fujian to conquer the western regions so that the region could provide China with the abundant local products. In the first month of the 13th year 2 of the Jianyuan period, under Fujian's reign, the official in charge of astrology reported to the emperor, "A star appears on the foreign skyline, indicating that virtuous and wise men should enter China to assist the governance." Fujian said, "I have heard of Kumarajiva in the western regions and Daoan the monk in Xiangyang. Should the wise men not be them?" Then, he directly sent for Kumarajiva in that region. In the second month of the 17th year of the Jianyuan period, the kings of Shanshan and Frontal Cheshi invited Fujian to dispatch troops to the western regions. In the 9th month of the next year, the emperor sent General Liu Guang and General Zhang Fei with an army of 70,000 alongside the Cheshi front and Cheshi kings to crusade against Kucha, Wuqi, and the other kingdoms in the western regions. At the farewell banquet, Fujian told General Liu Guang, "The emperor governs the nations in accordance with the heavenly rules, thus should cherish living beings. How can I initiate warfare to satisfy my greed for territories? That is in order to look for virtuous talent. I have heard that Kumarajiva in the western regions deeply understands the Dharma and comprehends yin and yang, so he is a great teacher for learners. I really want to have this talent. Sages are treasures for a country. If you can conquer Kucha, send him back quickly. Before Liu Guang's troops arrived, Kumarajiva told Bai Chun, the king of Kucha, the nation's destiny is falling because a strong enemy emerges when they come to the capital from the east. You had better treat them with respect. Do not fight with the main forces. Refusing to listen, Bai Chun rose to the battle but was killed by the invaders. His younger brother, Bai Zhen, was thereupon set to succeed the throne. Seeing the monk as a young man and not recognizing his wisdom, Liu Guang tested his worldly desires by forcing him to marry the daughter of the Kuchen king. Kumarajiva refused firmly, even used imploring words. Liu Guang said, "Your monk's virtue does not exceed your late father. Why do you refuse so strongly?" Liu Guang then forced him to drink wine and locked him up with the princess. Placed under such extreme circumstance, Kumarajiva broke the precept. The general also asked him to ride on a bull or ferocious horse, hoping that he would drop off. The monk withheld resentment and had no complaints until Liu Guang felt shame about his actions and stopped. On the way back to China, Liu Guang's troop camped at the foot of a mountain once, and had the soldiers lie down. Kumarajiva said, "We cannot camp here because this place will bring us great troubles. We must move up to the hill." Liu Guang did not follow his advice. At midnight, a deluge of rain poured down, a flood arose, and yards-deep water killed thousands. Liu Guang was surprised. Kumarajiva told the general, "This is an inauspicious place, we cannot stay here. We should go back quickly. I anticipate that you will find a fortunate locale midway." This time Liu Guang listened to him. Arriving at Liangzhou, words were received that Fu Jian had been killed by Yao Chong. Liu Guang's entire army donned mourning dress and moved to the south of Liangzhou city. He claimed to be the king outside Guangzhong, with the reign title Tai'an. In the first month of the first year of the Tai'an period, a cyclone hit Guzheng. Kumarajiva predicted, "This wind is evil, revolts will arise but will also cease by themselves." Soon, both Liangqin and Pengwang uprose. However, they each were wiped out quickly. In the second year of the Longfei period, Juku Nansheng of the Songlushui barbarian tribe from Zhangye and his cousin, Juku Mengshun, rebelled and elected for Duani, the prefect of Jiankong, to be the leader. Liu Guang sent his son of his secondary wife, Liu Zuan, the prefect of Qinzhou and Duke of Taiyuan, with an army of 50,000 to put it down. At that moment, the public believed that Guanye's group was a motley crew and that Liu Zuan's troop had a powerful reputation. So Liu Zuan's troop should be able to defeat all the rebels. Liu Guang then visited Kumarajiva to consult, and the latter said, "According to what I observe, this expedition will not bring back any benefit." Afterwards, Liu Zuan was defeated in Heli. Soon Guonan uprose. Liu Zuan indiscreetly ordered the troops to attack and was defeated again, only managing to escape and return by himself. Once, Zhangze, an inner court official of talent and elegance to whom Liu Guang attached importance, was sick. Liu Guang tried to save him. A foreign priest named Luocha said, "I am able to cure his illness." Liu Guang was glad and gave him a large sum of money. Kumarajiva knew that the priest was dishonest, and then he told Zhangze, "This priest cannot make it, and that will only bring trouble. It is predestined, but you may have a chance with divination." He made a knot with ropes of 5 colors and burned them to ashes, then putting the ashes in water. If the ashes floated up in the shape of ropes, the illness would be incurable. The ashes did float up in the shape of ropes, and shortly afterwards Zhangzi failed the treatment and died. Before too long, Liu Guang died as well, passing the throne to his son, Liu Xiao. A few days later, Liu Zuan, the son of the secondary wife, killed Liu Xiao and claimed the throne, naming the year Xianning. In the second year of the Xianning period, a piglet was born with 3 heads on one trunk. A dragon emerged from a well in the eastern suburb, coiled in front of the Great Hall, and disappeared the next morning. Liu Zuan took them as auspicious signs, and renamed the hall Flying Dragon Hall. Soon after, a black dragon flew to the gate of Dongyang Palace. Liu Zuan renamed the palace Gate from Danyang to Longxing. Kumarajiva told him, "The hidden dragon and pig spirit emerged recently. The dragons belong to the underworld, and they only appear on special occasions. If they rise frequently, it is a sign of disaster, and some subordinates may become usurpers. Your Highness should pay attention to self-control in regards with responding to heavenly signs." Liu Zuan did not agree with this opinion, played chess with Kumarajiva, and killed his chessman saying, "Chop your barbarian head off." Kumarajiva replied, "You cannot chop barbarian heads, but you will be killed by barbarians." He said so to remind the monarch, but the latter did not realize it. Liu Guang had a younger brother named Liu Bao, whose son was named Liu Chao, nicknamed Barbarian, who actually later killed Liu Zuan by chopping his head off. Liu Chao's brother took the throne. His contemporaries then realized this was what Kumarajiva used to prognosticate. Kumarajiva stayed in Liangzhou for several years. However, Liu Guang and his sons did not let him promote the Dharma, so the master kept the teachings to himself. Fu Jian had died, therefore, Kumarajiva was unable to meet him. At that time, Yao Chong was ruling Guanzhong, learned of Kumarajiva's wonderful reputation, and invited him with respect. The Liu family did not approve of his moving to Guanzhong due to the concern that his skills would serve Yao Chong. After Yao Chong died, his son Yao Xing succeeded to the crown, and the son sent an envoy that eagerly invited Kumarajiva. In the 3rd month of the 3rd year of the Xinghong period under Yao Xing's reign, the roots of different trees in a grand court grew connected, and scallions in Xiaoyao Garden turned into Dahurian Angelica. People believed that these were good signs and that a wise man should come. In the 5th month, Yao Xing sent Shuada, the Duke of Longxi, to suppress Liu Long, who thereupon experienced a disaster. In the 9th month, Liu Long surrendered. Kumarajiva was finally able to enter Guangzhong, and arrived in Chang'an on the 20th of the 12th month. Yao Xing treated him with the etiquette for a national master to show his respect and favor. Since then, their conversations usually lasted for the entire day, and they studied details tirelessly for the entire year. Since the Dharma spread to the east, in the age of Emperor Ming during the Han Dynasty, after the Wei and the Jin dynasties, translations of sutras and sastras gradually accumulated. However, the texts rendered by Ji Qian and Dharmaraksa, among others, had an abundance of illogicality and questionable points. Aspiring to preach the Dharma, Yao Xing started to pay homage to the 3 jewels and study doctrines in his boyhood. As Kumarajiva arrived and settled in Chang'an, he was invited to the Ximing Building and Xiaoyao Garden to translate various sutras. The master learned many sutras by heart and thoroughly understood their ultimate meanings. Because of his ability to speak Chinese, the translation and rendering of each sutra went smoothly. While reading the old translation, Kumarajiva found many errors which did not correspond with the Sanskrit origins because of the translator's misunderstanding. Yao Xing thus had 800 people including sramanas like Senge, Senchin, Fakin, Daoliu, Daoyan, Dobiao, Sengrui, and Sengchao, work under the guidance of Kumarajiva. He also ordered the translation of the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra. Kumarajiva held the Sanskrit version in his hands, while Yao Xing took the old translation to collate. When differences were found between the new translation and the old one, the translation by Kumarajiva was always accurate and convincing. Everyone involved in the project thus was appreciatively joyful. Yao Xing believed that Buddhism was profound and subtle, that wholesome deeds were the right way to cease suffering, and that the Buddhist laws were the right way to rule the world. Hence, he attached importance to the 9 divisions of the canon, practiced meditation in Hinayana ways, and wrote the Sastra on the 3 lives to reveal the principle of cause and effect. Both the nobles and commoners lauded his exaltedness. Yao Xian, the great general and Duke of Chongshan, and Yao Song, the general of the left army, were deeply convinced by karma and causality, and repeatedly requested for Kumarajiva to expound the newly translated sutras at the Da Temple in Chang'an. Gradually, the great master translated more sutras, including the shorter version of the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra, the Diamond Prajna Paramita, the Lotus Sutra, the Vimalakirti Nirdesa Sutra, the Sutra of the Questions of Visesa Sinti Brahma, the Sutra of the World Upholder, the Buddha Garbha, the Bodhisattva Pitaka, the Sutra of the Deathbed Injunction, the Inaction Bodhi, the Heu, Detachment, the Mahevara, the Contemplation of Causalities, the shorter version of the Sutra of Immeasurable Lives, the New Bhadra Kalpa, the Chan Sutra, the Essences of Chan, the Sutra on the Descent of Maitreya Buddha and his Enlightenment, the Sutra on the Descent of Maitreya, the Dasa Banavara Vinaya, the 10 Recitations Bhiksu Pratimoksa Sutra, the Bodhisattva Pratimoksa, the Commentaries, the Satyasiddhi Sastra, the 10 Stages, the Madhyamaka Sastra, the Seda Sastra, and the Devadasanakaya Sastra, totaling over 300 fascicles. The translation could fluently elaborate the subtle meanings of the original texts. At that time, people from near and far who were learned in the Dharma all gathered in Chang'an to study. The great cause, which is still respected and admired today, exerted long-lasting influences. Zhu Daosheng, a monk of Longguang Monastery in Jiankong who could comprehend details with his intellectual giftedness, would remove linguistic constraints when he was rendering the Dharma. However, since he was afraid of misleading others, he came to Guanzhong to hear Kumarajiva's advice. Wei Yuan, a monk of Mount Lu who outstood his peers in Buddhist learning, carried on the transmission of the Dharma and received many questions regarding teachings of remote past. He thus wrote to Kumarajiva for guidance, and their correspondence is included in the biography of Wei Yuan. A monk named Huirui, who was intelligent and learned, followed Kumarajiva and observed the translation. The great master explained the literary features of Sanskrit to Huirui, discussing the similarities and differences between it and Chinese by saying, according to Indian literary customs, they pay great attention to the forms of the texts, rhythms and cadence are particularly put into consideration. When seeking an interview with the king, a eulogy to his virtue is a must. The best rituals of meeting the Buddha contain songs and verses. The gathas in the sutras are all based on this tradition. Translating them from Sanskrit into Chinese removes their pleasing quality. Although the meaning remains, the writing style has been changed. It is rather like chewing the dish first, then feeding it to others. Not only the taste is gone, but it also makes people feel nauseous. Kumarajiva used to compose verses for a sramana named Fahi, reading the mind grew bright virtues, flowing to all directions for countless generations. I am like a phoenix standing on top of a Chinese parasol tree. The clear sound can be heard in the heavens. He made 10 verses in total, each using metaphors like this. Kumarajiva was fond of Mahayana discourses and aspired to spread them widely. He often sighed aloud, "If I wrote an Abhidharma of Mahayana, it would excel Katyayana's works." Now that I am in China, few have profound insight in this field. What shall I expect while I am stuck here? Then, sadly, he stopped his writing plan, just composing the treatise on the true nature in 2 fascicles and annotating the Vimalakirtanardesa Sutra for Yao Xing. While he composed his works, words flowed spontaneously from his lips, needless of changes. The style was graceful, containing subtle and profound meanings. Kumarajiva was honest, noble, and filled with uncommon pride. His ability to fit the opportunities for communication and preaching together was unparalleled. He had a character of kindness and generosity, guiding and teaching effectively and tirelessly with his open mind. Yao Xing once told Kumarajiva, "Venerable Master is uncommonly bright and second to none. How can we afford to have no descendant after you?" Thereupon, he called 10 dancing girls for the monk, forcing him to accept them. The monarch moved Kumarajiva from the temple to an abundantly supplied mansion. Since then, the great master would have a simile at the beginning of each sermon. A lotus grew from the mud. It was the lotus one should take, not the mud. When Kumarajiva was still in Kucha, he used to learn Vinaya from Vimalaksa, the Vinaya master. Later, when Vimalaksa came to Guanzhong, Kumarajiva was very glad and did his best to pay respect to his teacher. The latter did not know about the former's breach of precepts, telling him, "You should have repeated destinies in China. How many disciples do you have now?" Kumarajiva replied, "The precepts are not yet complete in China, but I have rendered most of the new sutras and various sastras. 3,000 disciples are following me to learn the Dharma. I, however, have a great deal of bad karma, thus am not qualified to be a teacher." Bidu of Pengcheng I learned that Kumarajiva was in Chang'an, sighing, "I parted from this man 300 years ago, but have had no chance to meet him since. Our reunion may have to wait until next life." Before Kumarajiva passed away, he already felt that his physical problem could not be cured. For that reason, he dictated a mantra 3 times and asked foreign disciples to recite it in order to save him. However, having no time to do so, he perceived the illness moving to a graver degree. Kumarajiva then fought to say his farewell to the monks. "We gather here for the Dharma, but have not accomplished the objectives. How sad it is that I now have to leave. I think I am fatuous, since I could only do some translation work. Out of the more than 300 fascicles of texts which have been rendered, just the Dasa Banavara Vinaya needs to be polished, but the essential has already been rendered, so it should be all right. I hope the translated versions will circulate widely in the future. Please, will you all disseminate them? I hereby swear, if the translation works reflect the original meanings well, let my tongue remain intact when my body is burned." He died in Chang'an on the 20th of the 8th month in the 11th year of the Hongxi period under the later Qin government, or the 5th year of the Yaxi period under the Jin dynasty. In accordance with foreign customs, his body was cremated in Xiaoyao Garden. When the fire burned out, his entire body was turned to ashes save his tongue. Later, some foreign Sramanas said, the texts Kumarajiva had translated were less than 1/10 of what he mastered. Originally, Kumarajiva's foreign name was partly from the name of his father, which was Kumarayana, and partly from his mother's Jiva. This is the way foreign people create a name. As for the date of his death, different records can be found, either the 7th, 8th, or 11th year of the Hongxi period. After some textual study, the 7th and 11th years might have been clerical errors. However, in the catalogues of translation, the record of the 11th year can be found as well. If it is just echoing the three versions, the truth will not be revealed.